All right, let's dive right in. Today we're talking about one of the most audacious, just plain brutal military campaigns in all of American history. I'm talking about Sherman's March to the Sea. And trust me, this wasn't just another battle. It was a plan that completely redefined what war could be.
So, to really get this whole thing, you first have to get the guy behind it all, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman. And this quote, "War is hell." And I brought the matches. I mean, that just says it all, doesn't it? This guy wasn't just playing to win a few battles. Nope. He was there to end the war, and he was willing to do whatever it took.
And that's the key right there. This wasn't your typical campaign, army versus army on a battlefield. No, this was something else entirely. It was, like the slide says, basically a giant middle finger to the Confederacy, a direct psychological gut punch aimed right at the Southern home front, right at the will of the people to keep fighting.
Okay, Section 1, a war without end. So you gotta be asking, why? Why do something so extreme? Well, to get that, we need to rewind a bit and look at just how grim things were in 1864.
The year is 1864, and the Civil War is just a complete and utter nightmare. It's become this bloody stalemate. Think of it like a zombie apocalypse that just wouldn't die. It just kept grinding on, chewing up lives with absolutely no end in sight. All those early dreams of a quick, decisive victory, yeah, those were long gone.
And this really breaks down that deadlock for you. You've got General Grant up in Virginia just grinding it out against Robert E. Lee in this brutal, bloody war of attrition. At the same time, the South is literally starving, but they just refuse to give up. The bottom line was the old way of doing things, just lining up armies and shooting at each other, it just wasn't working anymore. Something had to give.
So, yeah, something desperately needed to change. The Union needed a new playbook, a way to finally break this thing open and force an ending. And then, one general, well, he had an idea. A really, really radical one.
And that brings us right to it. Section 2, Sherman's radical idea. This was his controversial, game-changing vision for how to finally, once and for all, win this war.
I love this quote. "Forget sieges. Let's go for a walk." In his own words, that was the core of it. He was saying, look, instead of getting stuck in another long, bloody siege, what if we do something totally unheard of? What if I take my whole army, cut ourselves off from our own supplies, and just go for a walk right through the enemy's backyard?
And this chart just lays out how revolutionary that was. The old way, army versus army. You depend on these slow, cumbersome supply lines, you target soldiers. Sherman, he completely flipped the script. His idea was, don't fight the army, fight their will to continue. Forget supply lines, we'll live off the land. And we're not just targeting soldiers, we're targeting their infrastructure, their economy, and their morale. It's a total paradigm shift.
Okay, so how in the world was he planning to actually pull this off? Let's get into Section 3, the blueprint for chaos. Right, so here's the million-dollar question. How do you move 62,000 men deep into enemy territory with zero supplies coming from behind you? I mean, this is the thing that made a lot of people, even his own bosses, think he was completely nuts. In military terms, cutting your own supply line is basically suicide. How could an army that big even survive?
And here's his wild 4-point answer. First, you just abandon your supply lines on purpose. Second, you live off the land. You feed your entire army by taking whatever you can find. Third, you destroy everything of military value you come across. We're talking railroads, farms, factories, you name it. And fourth, and this is the big one, you break the South's morale. The goal was to make life so unbearable for the civilians that they would just give up all hope and stop supporting the war.
And just think about the scale here for a second. 62,000. That's the number of soldiers he took with him. This wasn't some small special ops team. This was a massive army, marching headfirst into enemy territory with no safety net, totally dependent on what they could find and take just to eat the next day. The gamble was enormous.
So the official polite military term for this was foraging, but Sherman, well, he didn't mince words. He called it legal looting. And let's be real, that's what it was. This wasn't about knocking on doors and asking nicely for a cup of sugar. This was about taking what you needed, by force. And yeah, this would become one of the most hated and debated parts of the whole campaign.
All right, so the plan is set, the dice are about to be rolled. It was time to light the first match. This was it, the point of no return.
And once they started, the speed was just unbelievable. Look at this timeline. They leave Atlanta on November 15th. A week later,
They've already captured the state capital. And by December 21st, we're talking just over a month, they've crossed the entire state, hit the Atlantic Ocean, and captured the city of Savannah. Which, by the way, Sherman then famously telegraphed to President Lincoln, offering it to him as a Christmas gift. Just incredible.
But before that incredible march could even begin, it started with a simple, brutal instruction. As they were leaving Atlanta, they were ordered to burn it. Not the whole city, but everything of military value. This one act set the tone for everything that was about to follow. It sent a clear message. This is total war.
Yeah, the mission here was brutally simple, and this quote sums it up perfectly. Cut the South in half, break its will, and light Atlanta like a birthday cake. The goal wasn't just to win a battle on a field somewhere. It was to completely cripple the Confederacy's ability to even wage war and to crush the spirit of the people supporting it.
And so, all this leaves us with the big question, right? The one historians are still wrestling with. Was Sherman's march a stroke of pure military genius that finally ended this horrific war and maybe even saved lives in the long run? Or was it an unforgivable act of total war, an act of brutality that crossed the line by targeting civilians and set a really dark precedent for the future? What do you think? Because even today, there's no easy answer.